started with a bark so loud it made the entire police station freeze. Officers backed away, terrified. Because the German Shepherd in the corner wasn't just any dog. He was known as the most aggressive police dog in the entire city. His growls echoed through the precinct like a warning. Stay away. No handler could calm him. Every attempt failed. Once the most loyal canine on the force, he had turned unpredictable after losing his handler in a tragic operation. Since then, no one could go near him. He refused food, attacked anyone who came close, and growled at every human. Officers called him the Beast. But one afternoon, when everyone had given up hope, a tiny girl in a pink dress walked straight toward his cage, smiling. Officers screamed for her to stop. "Please, sweetheart, stay away from that dog." But she ignored every warning. She simply looked into his eyes and whispered, "It's okay. You're not bad." And when her tiny hand touched the aggressive dog, no one dared approach. What happened next shocked everyone. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The metal gates of the city's canine division rattled as the van rolled in. Inside, chained and muzzled, sat a massive German Shepherd whose eyes could freeze anyone in place. Officers whispered among themselves. "That's him?" One muttered. "Yeah, that's Rex, the one they call the Untouchable." When the handler opened the cage door, Rex didn't move at first. He just stared, his golden eyes sharp, unblinking, filled with something darker than anger. Grief. Then, without warning, he lunged forward, the chain jerking tight as the handler stumbled back. Growls echoed through the concrete hallway. No one dared get closer. Rex had been through 5 precincts in just 2 years. Every officer who tried to train him walked away with scars, physical and emotional. Reports called him uncontrollable, dangerous, beyond rehabilitation. But none of them mentioned the nights he howled for someone who would never return. Behind the observation glass, Captain Reynolds folded his arms. "We'll give him one last chance," he said grimly. "But if he snaps again, he's done." The room went silent. Everyone knew what done meant. Rex was led into an isolated kennel at the far end of the facility. Heavy metal doors, reinforced bars, no other dogs nearby. He paced in circles, the sound of his claws clicking against the floor like a ticking clock. Each time a handler passed, he growled low, a warning. The scars across his muzzle told their own story. Once he had been a hero. Now he was a ghost of what he used to be. Night fell. The station lights dimmed, leaving the corridor bathed in a cold, sterile glow. From his cage, Rex watched officers laugh, eat, and head home. He pressed his head against the bars, listening. The faint hum of the city outside reminded him of the world he'd lost. Sirens, orders, the comforting voice of his old partner calling his name. But that voice was gone. A sudden flash of thunder outside made him flinch. For a second, his muscles tensed, his mind replaying that terrible night. The explosion, the screams, the silence that followed. He let out a deep, haunting growl that echoed down the empty hall. Everyone feared Rex for his aggression, but if they looked closer, they'd see the truth. His fury wasn't born from hate. It was born from heartbreak. And no one, not a single soul, had ever dared to reach through that pain. Until one day, someone would. 2 weeks later, the sound of sirens echoed through the early morning fog as a police transport van pulled up outside Riverdale City Precinct. Inside the van, Rex lay chained once again. Silent, motionless, eyes fixed on the narrow beam of light coming through the bars. The officer driving glanced at his partner. "You sure about this transfer?" he asked nervously. "He's not like the others. The last precinct couldn't handle him." The second officer shrugged uneasily. "Orders from the top. Riverdale's got better facilities. If anyone can fix him, maybe they can." When the doors opened, a wave of tense curiosity spread through the station yard. Officers gathered quietly, watching as 2 handlers in protective gear led Rex out. His thick fur rippled with every movement, muscles tight, head low. The muzzle gleamed under the sunlight, and his growl was low but constant, like a storm building under his breath. "Stay back," one handler warned. "He doesn't like eye contact." Rex's ears flicked back, scanning the surroundings. Everything here was new. New scents, new sounds, new faces. He didn't trust any of it. The wind carried faint traces of gun oil, coffee, and diesel fuel, all familiar yet meaningless now. Inside the precinct, Captain Reynolds briefed the team. This dog's been transferred due to extreme aggression. Last handler suffered serious injuries. You'll observe him, but no one enters the kennel without clearance. A murmur spread through the group. So why keep him at all? One rookie whispered. The captain's expression hardened. Because he's not just a dog. He's the best canine the force ever had before everything changed. That silence was heavy, the kind that carries respect and fear at the same time. Rex was led into the reinforced holding wing, his claws clicking across the polished floor. He caught glimpses of other canines, calm, obedient, their tails wagging as their handlers passed by. They looked at him, some growling softly, sensing the tension radiating from his body, but Rex didn't react. He had built walls around himself higher than any cage. As the door clanged shut behind him, he lowered his head and sat in the corner, shadows swallowing his face. Outside, officers exchanged uneasy glances. He's not a dog, one muttered. He's a ticking time bomb. No one knew that inside that hardened shell lived a loyal heart, broken, waiting for a reason to trust again. And that reason was already on her way. The morning sun poured through the tall glass windows of Riverdale precinct, glinting off polished badges and steaming coffee cups. Officer Mark Jensen sat at his desk, flipping through a thin file marked K9 Transfer. Rex, his brow furrowed deeper with every page he turned. The words uncontrollable, multiple attacks, handler injury jumped out at him like warning signs. He closed the file with a sigh. Not again, he muttered. Mark had spent over a decade working with police dogs. He'd trained some of the best, from drug sniffers to bomb detectors, each one loyal and fearless. But he also knew the other side, the ones broken by trauma, the ones too haunted to return to duty. And Rex, from everything he'd read, wasn't just broken. He was lost. Captain Reynolds walked in, his expression tight. Mark, he said, placing a hand on his shoulder. I need you to assess him. Mark looked up sharply. Captain, with all due respect, I'm not volunteering for suicide. You've seen his record? I have, Reynolds replied. But you're the only handler with enough experience to give him a chance. Everyone else is too scared to even go near that kennel. Mark leaned back in his chair, staring out the window. The city was alive with sirens, but all he could hear was the echo of his own memories. The day his old K9 partner, Shadow, had been shot in the line of duty. He'd promised himself he'd never get too close again. Losing a partner once had been hard enough. Losing another? Impossible. Why risk it? Mark finally said. He's unpredictable. If he can't be trained, he's dangerous to everyone. Reynolds hesitated. Maybe, but maybe he's just misunderstood. He paused, lowering his voice. I've seen dogs like him before, angry, withdrawn, terrified. They don't need control. They need someone who listens. Mark didn't reply. He just stared at the file again, at the picture of Rex baring his teeth through the muzzle, eyes burning with something between rage and pain. He closed the folder and stood. I'll look at him, he said quietly, but I'm not making any promises. As he walked down the corridor toward the K9 wing, a strange unease settled in his chest. He didn't know it yet, but this encounter would change both their lives forever. The soft hum of fluorescent lights filled the quiet observation room as Mark stood behind the reinforced glass, watching Rex pace inside his kennel. The dog's movements were sharp, restless, every step a reflection of the chaos brewing inside him. His eyes flicked toward every sound, every shadow, as if expecting danger to appear at any second. Mark had seen aggression before, but this was different. Rex wasn't just hostile, he was haunted. Where did he come from? Mark asked, turning to Officer Diaz, who was logging notes beside him. Diaz sighed. He's military trained, served overseas, was part of a bomb detection unit with his handler, Sergeant Cole Evans. They were legends, saved an entire convoy once. Mark's gaze returned to Rex. What happened? Diaz hesitated before replying. IED attack. Their vehicle was hit during patrol. Evans didn't make it. Rex survived, barely. After that, he stopped responding to commands. Hit the medics who tried to help. They sent him back home, but every precinct since has failed to reach him. Mark's chest tightened. He knew that kind of loss, the kind that changes you forever. Through the glass, Rex growled, pacing faster, his tail stiff.